Welcome to Royal Legacy, where we will explore the rich athletic history and deep family connections of BYU sports. Join us as we honor the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future of the BYU Cougars. Here's your host, Lauren McLean.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Lauren McLean, and welcome to Royal Legacy, where we dive deep into the family connections of BYU sports. Today, I'm joined by Provo's first ever female mayor, Michelle Kaufusi, and her husband, Steve Kaufusi, a former BYU and NFL football player and former defensive line coach for the BYU football team. Together, along with their 5 children, make up the first family of Provo. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is going to be fun. It's been a little bit since I've been able to see you guys, except for in the 4th of July parade.
Yes.
Which is always so much fun. The name Kaufusi is synonymous with Provo and BYU. Is that something you take pride in, Michelle?
I do. It's really fun being the mayor because I always, when there's an introduction at a big event and they see the name Kaufusi, I always walk out on stage and I'm like, sorry if you're disappointed. I'm the mom. I'm the mayor. You probably were thinking it was going to be one of my boys or my husband and we were just going to talk sports all day. I don't even like sports, but I can run a city and it's kind of fun that way. I kind of have a lot of fun with it.
So how did that come about? You're not big into sports. I know you were a Cougarette.
I'm clumsy, though. I'm not great. I'm clumsy and left-handed, so all the things play against me when it comes to sports.
Wow, and incredible. You had 5 athletes. Let's talk about, because you grew up in Provo, Utah.
Right.
What made you decide to come to BYU and not want to kind of spread your wings and go somewhere else?
Well, it's really interesting. That's such a great question. So thank you. Being born and raised in Provo and a single mom and 7 kids, we didn't even know if we would get to go to college, have the opportunity to go to college. We just knew that we were the free and reduced lunch kids and we were working. Our mom was working the graveyard shift at the hospital from 7 to 7 every night. And we knew by the age of 12 we were all contributing. I recall a wonderful woman say to me one time, "You're really smart. Have you ever thought of going to college?" And that literally was the first time I had thought about it. And I was probably a freshman at Provo High School. And I remember thinking, I want to go to college. I want to go across the street to college. And I went to my mom and she said, I'll never be able to afford that for you. But if you can figure out a way to get there, let's get you there. And I went and found my counselor, and she said, I can tell you how to get to BYU. This is what you have to do for the next 4 years. And I just took it to task. And I ended up going to BYU just a couple months after I graduated from high school on a full-ride academic scholarship, and just felt like I had, hit the jackpot because BYU was just everything. Just a little girl born and raised in Provo that didn't have really influence of a lot of BYU around her other than the community.
Let's talk about your mom a little bit because I think that is what an incredible story. Her name is Janet, right? Yeah. And she passed away in 1998. Single mom, enrolled in what is now Utah Valley University, and she became a nurse. She
did. She became a nurse. She had to do something quick that could help pay the bills. So nursing was where, and she was a nurturer. So it was a perfect fit.
And she worked the graveyard shift, you mentioned, and so she could be home with you guys. What was life like for you at that time?
We were the worst kids. I just remember thinking, because she died when I was around 30, and I just think she died of exhaustion because she just had to work so hard, and we all worked hard, but we were a lot of fun, and I'm sure the neighbors thought we were the rotten kids, and we probably were, but she was amazing and did the best she could. She was very strict. And her family's from Manti, Utah, so she didn't believe in welfare or, she wouldn't take any help. It's just everyone work a little harder and we're going to make ends meet. And so many life lessons I learned from her of just, grit and determination and a lot of having to grow up quick and be independent and being told no a lot and then still being able to accomplish different things has really served me well in my capacity as mayor.
What do you think her reaction would have been knowing that you are now the mayor of Provo?
She would be hilarious. She could swear like a sailor, and she was yet the most compassionate, loving person in the world, but she would be out knocking doors, and I probably would have to control her a little. I think that I probably would, because she'd be so proud and so excited, and she loved Provo as well. And anyways, it's just it's just crazy to even think that a little girl born at Utah Valley Hospital into the situation I was born into could end up being the first woman mayor of Provo. It's like a fairy tale.
Steve, let's go over to you. What made you want to come to BYU initially?
I think number one was, I took a recruiting trip to Hawaii, and it was a different experience. Everybody was partying, drinking on my trip, and I asked to be taken back to my hotel. And so when BYU came along, I was actually I was going to take my next trip was to Kansas, University of Kansas. And so when then BYU showed up, kind of last minute, and asked me if I could come the same week to Provo. So I was excited. I was hoping that they would take a look at me. I was down at Dixie College, junior college at the time in St. George. But I felt like, okay, this is BYU. I hope that Coach Edwards will offer me a scholarship on my trip because I wanted to go to I just wanted to go to BYU because I knew some people there already. I had some cousins there already, and I wanted to be around an environment, that I'm with, LDS kids, around me, that bear me up, and vice versa. And so that was the whole reason. Plus, it was close to Salt Lake. I didn't see my family, my parents coming out, maybe watching me a game, whether I was in Kansas or, Hawaii, but they can drive, 40 minutes to Provo, to watch a game. So those were the couple of reasons was that I just wanted to be around people, with, same moral values and, around LDS kids and close to home.
Let's go back to where it all began in 1986, I believe. Michelle, you were a Cougarette. Steve, you were on the BYU football team.
Well, this is horrible that we're starting there.
I heard there was a little controversy on how you guys met.
I don't like this story.
Let's start with Michelle. How did you two officially meet?
Well, we literally did not meet in Provo. We met at a hotel down at a bowl game.
That sounds bad.
Yeah, where the team was, and the Cougarettes were staying, and the team was
all
staying. Yeah, and I don't even know what bowl. That's how much the sports part was to me. What bowl game was it?
The Freedom Bowl.
It was the Freedom Bowl.
Oh, it was the Freedom Bowl. It's the Freedom Bowl that we met at in a lobby, and you can take it from here. Yeah.
Well, so we were in the Freedom Bowl, invited to go play there, and. A lot of the guys, we were there already, and I remember being at the pool with the guys and swimming. And I came out and decided to go back to my room while I was in the lobby, all the couches there. The Cougarette girls were sitting there, and I was pushing the button, waiting for the elevator to go up to my room. And then I noticed one of the Cougarettes, her name was, we call her Missy. She goes by Diana. So we're forever grateful for her for introducing us. But I saw Missy, and I waved, "Hey, Missy, how are you?" And she got up and said, "Hi, Steve." And then we were just talking, and I was looking at all the girls sitting there on the couch, and Michelle caught my eye, and I said, "Missy, who's that right there?" And that's Michelle Garrick. Well, you'll have to introduce me to her. So Missy said, "Well, we're going to go to the pool here in a little bit, so if you want to come down, that's where we're going to be." So I went up and changed, and then walked down and went to the pool, and there they are playing around at the jacuzzi and the swimming pool, and just sat there but she called Michelle over while we were in the lobby and introduced her to me, and that was the beginning of it.
Was the rest history from there, or was there kind of a little bit of a roller coaster?
There was no history from there.
we came back to the winter semester, okay, and I don't think we met up until February, March.
Yeah, you had surgery or something.
Yeah, and so after the season I had surgery, but we ran into each other again at the Smith Field House. She was. I think you guys were taking some kids around, showing them BYU, and that's how we ran into each other again. And I said, "Hey, we need to go out. So, okay, well, give me a call. But that's after that, it was just, yeah.
I love it. Did you guys have any idea the legacy you were about to create with the union between the two of you?
No. I had no idea. I'm like, Steve, you should have given me a disclaimer that not only sports, but he's like the oldest son and the golden child, and I didn't know the culture that the oldest son is like the king and all the things. He has to conduct everything and beat everything.
Not even. There's
a lot, and it's really fun, and it's a great part of the culture, but then just to have our kids just be huge, and I may not be competitive as far as sports, but I'm a really good cook. And I know how to cook big. Like I have commercial-sized pots and pans because I can cook a meal up like you wouldn't believe. And that really served me well.
What is it like now that your kids are all grown and have kids of their own? Because I can't even imagine when your kids were teenagers. Just what they consumed. What's it like when everyone gets together, everyone's in the Kaufusi household?
That's still every day. Can you please tell them it's not supposed to be every day, that they are supposed to have moved on from
Alexis.
that? Yeah, everyone still shows up.
Are you still cooking for them? Like, what's life like
on Sunday?
Now?
Yeah, on Sunday I go really big, and then if they, like during the week, if I am able to get home before 7 at night, we'll shoot out a text of, come up and let's have spaghetti, and because it's just, they love each other. They all love each other, and I love that they love each other. So we try and keep that going and food brings them together, and it always has, and I'm sure it always will.
I love it. I can see that, and I've interviewed a few of your children, and food is definitely the theme of their reunions, and as it should be. So you guys, you get married, you have these 5 beautiful and gigantic children, right? And they become these amazing athletes, and the name Kaufusi was already, because of Steve here, known for football. Then you have these kids that carry on the legacy. So sports is kind of life for you. And then Steve, your wife comes to you and says, I want to run for mayor. What's your reaction?
At first I thought, wow, I was worried. I was scared for her because, politically, I know how, everybody's got an opinion, and
it wasn't my first elected office. I first ran for school board and won.
Okay.
So I was already on the school board as the school board president when the mayoral seat opened up.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad, right?
Yeah.
Just school board stuff, easy, nobody screaming at her.
It's children. We love the children.
But when people have asked, hey, I think you ought to run for mayor. She came home and told me that. I was a little afraid for her, like, gosh, does she have thick skin to deal with, that's like a whole nother level from school board, right? So that was my worry, was just, people saying mean things and lying, and, we see that all the time in the political arena.
Right.
So that was my concern, is just, does she have thick skin to deal with this, But who am I to tell her what to do, right? She was on my corner for, my whole football career and even coaching, and I always felt like that she has talents and that she loves service, and she was always out in the community with the kids, from PTA president to just volunteering to do whatever, fundraising stuff. And so she was good at it. Once she puts her mind to something, she's very passionate about, accomplishing those things. So I said, look, I'm going to support you. If that's what you want to do, let's do it. And so off we went.
Mm-hmm. Michelle, while Steve was playing football and coaching football, you're quoted as saying, while being a stay-at-home mom, I'm the mom who always puts academics above any sporting event. If they didn't have their piano done, they didn't go to practice. So how did you go from that stage of life to then turning to, I think I want to be more involved in my community and in politics?
That's such a great question, and I am that mom. And the boys will always say, our mom was strict. They would have their football helmets on, pounding on the piano, and their ride would be out there honking. They'd be stressed, and I'd be like, 7 more minutes, 7 more minutes. And just on them, trying to get balance in their lives. I always feel like sports kids can go really all sports because it's all consuming. And I was always trying to be a balancer for the kids. And so reading was a big part of our lives growing up. Academics was huge. I'm sure the boys told you that the rule was they couldn't leave BYU until they handed me their diploma, because they were not going to be those kids that got drafted and went into the NFL and then came back with nothing and had to go back to college. And so they love to tell the stories of how strict I was, but I'm telling you, it builds character, and they're better for it. And the balance, and where my kids went, I wanted to be. So like Steve said, we were completely engaged in everything. If there was a need for a park, sign me up and I'll bring my kids with me and we'll fundraise. And the kids were saying the other night, they can't even remember a time where they haven't been in a church gym cleaning up or at some community event handing stuff up or picking up garbage. And I just said, isn't that a great way to be raised? Yeah. It's a great way to be raised.
100%. And something I love about your kids is every single one of them, they are happy, they are kind, and they are good. You just see that in them. And I'm sure it's so much to do with the two of you and how you raise them. So you did a good job, Michelle.
Well, and their dad. Their dad is the peacemaker and the calm.
And he's one of the best. We love him at BYU. As the first ever female mayor of Provo, one of the first females in Utah politics.
I know. Can you believe that?
Yes.
Crazy.
Amazing. Like Steve was mentioning, as he was worried about some of the pressure and things that would be said to you, how have you been able to handle those types of moments, that pressure, those doubts, and those naysayers that are coming towards you?
So that is just such a huge part of being in the political world, and it is what keeps so many people out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's terrifying to step into the arena and just take all of that when it's really easy to say things and point fingers and criticize when you're not in the seat. But when you're in the seat and you know all the background stories, you have to step up, and you can't tell the whole story a lot of the time.
Right.
And you just have to take it. The part that gets hard is sometimes when people get backed into a corner, they'll get really personal. Mm-hmm. And I'm just human as can be still. And I remember crying at the office one time, and my chief of police and my fire chief came in to talk to me, and they're like, the mayor's crying. We've never had a mayor cry. I'm like, I'm crying, you guys. I'm your first woman mayor. Just get me some tissues. I'll be over it in a minute. And so it's really good. But I'll tell you, it's been fascinating as well, because my skill set of being a mother, I have utilized it more than I ever thought I would as the mayor. There are moments in the day where I think, okay, I've already dealt with a situation similar to this with my 3 sons fighting over a sword, basically. But there is so many lessons and skills you learn throughout life that when you finally get to a position that you have to pull all your knowledge, all your talents, all your abilities, you pull from everywhere. And being a mother is something I pull from every day.
Mm. And I love that you cried, because I feel like a lot of women in politics feel like they need to become more like a man.
Oh, I cry all the time.
And I just love that you are yourself and you bring your own gifts and talents to that. I think that's incredible. Steve, from your point of view, what's something people might misunderstand about what it takes to run the city as you've watched your wife do it?
Gosh, misunderstand. Well, I guess that, the mayor is a human just like everybody else, right? And just something, especially being a woman, I feel like sometimes there are people out there who feel entitled. They feel like that maybe they have money and they have businesses and they can come into her office and, raise their voice and demand stuff, And it hurts me when she comes home and I say, look, you need to have, a police in there sitting with you or your deputy mayor, because I know those people. I meet them all the time, in football, whether it's parents, and think their kids are the best. And so who those people are. And so, I always give her a pep talk, Don't let them come in. Just excuse them and say, sorry, this meeting's over. Mm-hmm. You're not going to come in here and talk like that to me. Okay, when you're ready to have a conversation and, the right way, then you can come back.
Yeah.
But I always feel like the men are always feel like they can come in there and kind of bully her.
Yeah.
But she's so much stronger. I mean, it's like something happened to the kids. She's the one on the stands that's going to be, you leave my son alone, or my daughter. I know when she goes to that, that
place.
little space. Yeah. So if someone, she'll bark back. But yeah, that's one thing I notice is that there's a lot of people there that think they can bully her because she's a woman.
I know a few 6'8", 6'10" bodyguards that you could hire to come help you out with that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more from Steve and Mayor Michelle Kaufusi. You're listening to Royal Legacy. What's up, everyone? This is Lauren McLean. If you like my podcast, make sure you check out Deep Blue, hosted by Jason Shepard. He chats with BYU Cougars, both current and former, about their personal journeys, challenges, and triumphs. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts or on the BYU Radio app.
And now back to Royal Legacy and your host, Lauren McLean.
Welcome back to Royal Legacy. I'm Lauren McLean. I'm here with husband and wife, former BYU football player Steve Kaufusi, and the mayor of Provo and former Cougarette, Michelle Kaufusi. Steve, your parents, and tell me how you pronounce his name. Petelo? Petelo. There you go.
Yeah.
And Eveline Kaufusi.
Yep.
Beautiful names. Arrived from Tonga in 1972. All 6 of the Kaufusi sons grew up to play college football for either the Utes or the Cougars. 5 of the grandsons have played for BYU, with Devin playing for both schools. Your brother Jeff has 3 sons, Micah Jackson and Isaiah Kaufusi, who we had back on the show back in November. How did your parents, Steve, establish a football family? What was the emphasis like growing up for you guys?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think moving here, we didn't have much, right? My mom and dad both worked. We were, literally I was 8 when we moved here, literally trying to fit in, trying to learn English, going to school. So at the time, we didn't really, we like today, kids signed up to play in sports. Like we didn't even know there's such a thing. So growing up, it was, playing at the cultural hall, at the church, that's where we hung out a lot. And then there was a police athletic league down the street that, we learned about, and that's how we kind of got into playing there. And they had boxing and, you can do things. So we really, growing up, we never really did competitive little, sports. And it wasn't, like I didn't play football until I was in 10th grade.
Wow.
And so, we played the Tongan rugby, had some going to different places. So didn't know much about the high school sports that was going on. But when we were practicing rugby, that's one of the coaches walked by. Hey, we don't have enough guys on our team. Do you want to learn how to play football? We don't know how. Well, I can teach you. So I thought it was pretty cool. Wow, you put pads on. You can hit harder. And so and I loved it. So I stuck with it. And then I wasn't playing at all that first year because I didn't know what I was doing. But that's kind of how, and again, this is in high school. The rest of the kids, we were never put in competitive team sports yet, although we were playing a lot at the chapel or at the police athletic league down the street. So, but that's kind of how it is really started for us. I mean, we were active. We had a landscaping business, and so all the boys, we drove around and cut, homes and stuff. So that was keeping us active and Dad never wanted to, rent a backhoe. He made us break up the cement and do all the hard things like, gosh, Dad, you can get this thing and, it'll just lift it and then make the job go faster. Nope. No, we're going to save money. You guys, it'd be a good workout for you guys. So that was how we grew up. And then, being a senior, I really didn't, I wasn't good enough. Nobody noticed me. I was just, again, learning how to play football. But I felt like, gosh, I love this game. I want to play. So when one of the coaches came down from Dixie College to recruit some of our players, they saw me running around on film and said, hey, how would you like to, call me in? How would you like to come and play for us? Oh, okay. So that's kind of, but it wasn't until after my mission. I played my first year, one of my mission, and came back And then started playing. All of a sudden, I started getting letters, and I got my first offer was from UNLV. And I said to the coach, "Hey, what's this? What's this about? Don't you know what that is?" "No, tell me." "It's a scholarship offer. They're going to pay for you to go play." "Really?" I was excited to go back to my dorms and call my mom and said, "Hey, Mom, this is how we're going to go to college." The kids, sign him up. Sign him up. I think there's like little league somewhere, Yeah. I started learning a little bit about, there is little leagues that the kids can sign up. So, Mom, kind of signed up the kids that way. But all the little ones got a chance to play a little more, football than I did, until school. But that's kind of how we started.
So you're the oldest son. So you really were the one, it sounds like, that got the rest of the guys into football. You kind of paved the way for the rest of your family.
Yeah, I was the oldest, so I thought, wow, this, because we never even thought of going to college. We were poor. How's my mom and dad going to afford this? Even though our heart, we want to go to school, but how do we? Yeah. We don't have any money to do that. Let alone. Just we didn't know there was a community college. We could have gone that, but it was just, again, part of growing up here in Salt Lake City, trying to learn and fit in, learn what's around you, and learning from our friends, and people in our ward, just trying to, live the American dream like everybody else.
Yeah. So you're like, "Mom, sign up my brothers because I found a way." Yeah. For them to be able to go to college. You played at BYU, obviously, after Dixie, drafted in the NFL in 1988, coached at Utah, and then came back to coach at BYU. What originally drew you back to Provo and the Cougars?
Well, when I left here, I didn't finish school, when I got drafted. So I left, I want to say
That's why your wife was like, "You will get your degrees," to your sons, right?
Yeah. And so I wanted to, I think I was gone 5 years away from BYU. And then, after you get let go from the NFL, it's, okay, what do I do? There was a few options of things to do. My dad said, "Hey, do you want to come landscape like me?" I said, "No, Dad, that was hard work, But, I thought, I need to go back to school. I looked at Michelle, I looked at my, kids at the time, that's the right thing to do. So I came and saw the, athletic director and talked to them about me coming back to school. They were able to help me, pay for my school, so I took advantage of that and came back. And at the time I was married. It was probably the best grades I've had, because obviously I contribute that to my wife. Yeah,
Michelle, did you push Steve kind of like you do to your kids?
I was like, "This is not okay. Let's get back to BYU and get that degree, and then let's get you into a master's program." Yeah.
But that's how I came back to finish school. At the time, I never thought about graduate school. But, okay, that's the route I need to go. And so I remember going into Lavelle Edwards. Lavelle, how do I become a graduate assistant? I want to go to graduate school. I saw he wrote my name on his little pad. I noticed there was like a bunch of names on that pad. And I thought, okay, maybe this. But anyways, I kept going to school and kept checking back with him over the next year. They never really said anything. But that's so my brother Jeff was being recruited at the time. So he asked me, "Hey, University of Utah coaches are coming in, meet Mom and Dad. Can you be here?" So I drove up Salt Lake, sat there, and the first time I ever met Ron McBride. At the time they had, Fred Whittingham and Kyle Whittingham was just coming into the program. And so met Ron McBride, and after the family meeting, Coach McBride asked me, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm back home. I'm finishing school up at BYU and waiting to see if I can be a graduate assistant there so I can go to graduate school." And how would you be interested in University of Utah? He kind of threw that at me. Yeah, I'd be interested. I never always thought, wow, it's an opportunity. Yeah. I said, "Why don't you do this? Go think about it. You can have a graduate position at University of Utah if you want." I said, "Oh, can you give me overnight so I can go home and talk to my wife about it and then maybe get back to you tomorrow?" I went home that night. We couldn't sleep. My wife and I talked about it. And I thought, wow, we can sit here and hold our breath for BYU to wait for them to give me an opportunity and lose this other opportunity. Right. So we prayed about it, and we felt really good. Like, hey, we need to just, even though our heart's here at BYU, but I feel like we need to let go and go where the opportunity comes. So that's how I ended up at the University of Utah. So I drove up there the next day and started filling up my papers and sending them all my, my report cards and things, and started that application and got accepted. So that's how I ended up there, being a GA, and then after that, I got hired. After that winter semester. So I spent, I think it was 8 years up there, and then came back here to BYU after.
Always wearing a little bit of blue under your red shirt, right? Michelle Kaufusis are all over BYU and Utah football. You have a unique perspective into this, I feel like. Is there any rivalry tension in the family that you've noticed?
Well, we're diehard BYU. I'm the mayor of Cougar Town,
right.
So we're all BYU. I actually had a red sweatshirt on somewhere, and someone grabbed a photo and put it up and was like,
oh my gosh,
our mayor looks horrible in red. Why are you wearing red? Blue's your color. It was hilarious. But I love it. And the rivalry is a lot of fun with the Kaufusi family. And we forever will be grateful to Ron McBride for giving Steve the opportunity to get start his master's degree, plus, just jump into coaching right out of the gate. That was a true gift to our family, and forever grateful for that opportunity that just opened door after door. But we always knew we wanted to raise our kids in Provo, and Steve just felt like Provo was paradise. And so as the opportunity started to come for us to come back to Provo and coach at BYU, we had a couple. And then, then the minute they hear you're going, then they want to talk to you about staying at Utah. It was a little bit of back and forth. But deep down, I knew I wanted to raise my kids here, and Steve's heart was, just BYU. He loved BYU. So we were really excited to finally take the jump and come back home. And I've brainwashed all my kids. They all live in Provo, and we'll stay in Provo now with
even
their mama.
Devin.
Yeah.
Devin's back in Provo?
He is. Well, sometimes we have to just say, give him a little grace.
Yes.
We forgive him.
It's all right. We all forgive you, Devin. You're the parents of 5 kids: Bronson, Corbin, Alexis, Devin, and Daryl. Yes. Bronson, Corbin, Devin played football. Alexis played basketball. Daryl played soccer. Steve, as parents of high-performing athletes, how did you make sure their character came before their sports?
God, I think just growing up, what my wife and I, wanted to teach our kids, right? I think we owe it all to the gospel in our life, and the godly parents helping us, guiding us. And then we, in return, did that really for our kids, And my wife touched a little bit on it. It was just really finding balance. You can, as parents, you can create monsters in your kids, but really that there's playing sport, but I think there's also discipline and tough love. Always need to bring them back to earth, so they don't, sometimes their head get too big and proud, a little bit arrogant, and sometimes they get a little mean, So there's times to just humble them. I think that's important to keep them grounded. And the kids need that in their life, so they don't just think that they're all it and sports and I'm the best. And so just keeping them, humble and again, teaching them that there are more important things in football. Yeah. So it's not who you are. It doesn't define who you are. Yeah. So it's all about the other stuff because, again, here's your football and here's the rest of your life. So it's, when football's over, when sports is over, who are you? And there's more to you than football or basketball.
Michelle, you mentioned some of the boundaries and rules that you set in your home to keep church and school a priority during sports season. So you mentioned they were, banging on the piano, hurried to try and get out the door, but you made them do it.
Yes, I did.
What made it so important for you as your kids were growing up to put those things first before sports?
Well, they were gifted. They had all of them had this amazing natural talent that just would draw them to sports. and they hardly had to work at it and were good at it. And that was too easy. So I would try and, again, just balance their lives a little. I would make them go with me to BYU Theater once in a while. Just try and think of things to get them out of that headspace that everything's sports. Mm-hmm. And I would say things like, we have to have other things in our life because we're literally one injury away from taking a break from sports. And then what do we have? And, sure enough, we experienced a lot of injuries. I mean, I remember our first ACL being blown out and the devastation of that, and me crying and them crying, and a year recovery. And then we had like 4 more, and it was no big deal. We just knew we were in it for a whole year for recovery for each one of the kids. And just things like that just helped us remind ourselves that there's so much more to life. And the gospel and family are priorities in our family. Those things matter, and we put a lot of emphasis. And not just the 7 of us. It was extended family really counts. And we go out and we support our extended family, and in return they support us. And it just has really been a good balance for the kids.
Steve, speaking of balance, how did you balance being a dad and a coach? Because those can be 2 completely different things of how you treat somebody or a player. How did you balance those 2 things when you had to?
I don't know. No, I always, I hang my hat on the saying, you treat people like you want to be treated, and whether it's the head coach or AD all the way down to the janitor of, there at our building. And it's just making them feel important. And I think, and then, even players, right? The walk-on, compared to the, a 5-star or 4-star or 3-star player that sometimes they feel entitled. And so there's times, just like humbling your kids, there's times that you need to humble them because, it's very competitive, right? They come across very confident and whatever, but it's just, there's, you can tell as a coach, there's time for you to, tough love, to give that player, he needs it right now, So that's what I always just try to do is, but always give them positive too. Yeah. If you're going to be, negative, make sure you always finish with the positive.
Finish with something positive. You got to always find something positive there at the end.
There you go.
When we had Bronson and Hillary on last year, they told a story about you, Steve, pulling up Hillary on Facebook during a team meeting and breaking it down if she'd be a good fit for Bronson. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your side of that story?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Who was it? Well, we were getting ready for a defensive line meeting, so everybody comes in, and one of the players, I can't remember if it's who it was, said, "Hey, coach, there's a girl here that's, it's asking about Bronson." And said, "Oh yeah, who is she?" And he comes over and got out of our little football practice window and let me, looked her up, there she is, and everybody's in there. Oh, wow, she's cute, and but that's how I ended up finding out a little bit about Hillary, not knowing have they met yet, or are they going, when are they going to meet up,
right?
Yeah. So as a dad, you're always curious.
Oh yeah.
About, okay, who is this young lady?
You got to tease your kids a little bit too.
Yeah.
When you have the opportunity. Luckily, Hillary can take it. She's incredible. You guys are now grandparents to 7 grandkids. Michelle, what's better, being a parent or a grandparent?
Oh, a grandparent. The grandkids are perfect. They can do no wrong in my eyes. And I told the parents all the time, I will never say no to these kids. So if you don't want them to have chocolate milk and bubble gum all day, you be in here and you say no, because I already said no for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. And they are just such a gift and a blessing, and so innocent and so sweet, and they are just the reward of all rewards. We feel so blessed.
You gotta watch Grandma. She sneaks a lot of sweet stuff.
That's what grandmas are for.
And I always tell her, look, their mom's going to get mad if you do that.
Mom doesn't have to know.
Here.
It's all right.
They're not here.
You both have led in very different but demanding arenas, football and politics. What have you learned from watching each other be in the spotlight and lead in your various roles? Let's start with Michelle. What have you learned about Steve, watching him lead in the football arena?
He has some skills that I really admire and try and implement in my own skill set. And one of them is he's very calm, and he'll pause. And I have a little more fire in me. And so that's been a very helpful skill that I admire that he has, where I have tried to think, okay, now if someone's yelling and pointing in Steve's face, I want to slap their hand down or something. Mm-hmm. But Steve stays calm. I've seen him do it. He stays calm. He hears them out. And I admire that skill, and I've tried to master that skill. Another thing he is really good at is he never shows emotion. He'll stay calm, even though he probably doesn't, because then he'll come home and tell the truth. But he just really is good at controlling his emotions. And I have tried, and I think about it often when I'm in a situation, to try and stay calm, make eye contact, control everything, control the situation the best you can, and then just walk away and sleep on it and let it settle. And that's been a wonderful lesson for me to learn from him as I've watched him in the public eye. And he loves those kids he coached. He just is so much more than football players to him. Those were his kids, and we stay in touch with them all. And when they see us and we see them, we have them over with their kids. And it's just been a real gift to our whole family, this family of coaching and this family of football. It really has been an ongoing blessing for us.
I love that. And I've always viewed you as like Bishop Kaufusi.
He's been a bishop.
I know. And you just have that demeanor about you, everything that Michelle said. Because I'm fiery like you. That's my go-to. I'm like, I'll spit it at you quick. So I admire those that have demeanors like that. So Steve, what about you? What have you seen in Michelle as she's been in this role that you've really learned to admire about her?
Gosh, like I said earlier, I was worried about her getting into politics because of all the, negativity and people wanting, different things and getting on her face. But I've been pleasantly surprised how much she has grown from being in the school board to being a mayor. This is her second term, and this is her 8th year.
Yeah, 14th year.
She's
holding a political office.
I thought maybe she's ready to go on a mission or something, but
I'm on a mission.
She says,
"You are."
She tells me, "Honey, I feel like I have the energy to, go 4 more years. And I love to see my projects, get them to the finish line, and so forth." And I guess, well, hey, let's do it. So I support her, and I've watched her grow over the years and how she's handled things. But she's such a bridge builder. She's such a easy, to talk to person, building relationships. And, no matter where she goes, she's always building relationships, whether it be, back in D.C. or here in our state and, in the county. It's been amazing to see her just, she makes friends everywhere she goes. And but that's her strength, and she's got a lot of energy. I don't know where she gets it. But since I've known her, she's always been active, from running all the time and wearing out one of her knees. She's already got one of her knees worn out, so she's got a knee replacement. And I try to remind her, don't be running on that knee.
I'm sure she loves
but
the reminders.
She's
still running on it.
Yeah. She loves the outdoors, and she hikes a lot, and I think that's keeping her, feeling young and feel, the energy that I've talked about, because, she has a lot more than I do, for sure. Yeah. She keeps me going.
I'm here with Steve Kaufusi and Mayor Michelle Kaufusi. I know you guys are so busy, so I appreciate you coming on. It's just been incredible. I've learned so much, and you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Steve and Mayor Michelle Kaufusi for coming on the show with me. Annie Robinson and Christy Solomon helped produce this episode with senior producer Terry South. You can join the Royal Legacy wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or on BYUradio.org. Royal Legacy is a production of BYU Broadcasting.